you know, we talk about this paradigm shift. How do businesses? I mean, many businesses are caught in the same web, right? Countries are also caught in the same web where they need to shift paradigm. And you've helped a number of countries, I think, right? How do they get out of this rut?
As soon as you become aware of what it can do, it's as if it releases you.
Okay.
So, because you can look and say, okay, when I say that, I'm saying that because of my my paradigm, not because it's absolutely true. And then you can say, okay, is there another way to look at this?
Okay. So that gives you that.
Yeah, what was interesting is if you look at my work, I'm not prescriptive, do this and do that, and I say, know this and know this. And if you understand the way the system works, you can choose to see the world anew. In fact, it's a line on my film. You can choose to see a world anew. Is why human beings have such power. If we look at most creatures, they're genetically programmed into a very tight paradigm. They do it really well. But if you ask for a massive adaptation, you don't see very many animals go, well, let's do an Iron Age instead of a Bronze Age. Well, let's make computer chips. You know, we don't see that out there. But we have, because of this phenomenal piece of equipment up here, we can choose to redefine the world and re-see it. It does say one other thing, though, too, that I too often don't talk about, but it's really important. It tells you how complex the world is, that we can keep reframing it. We never see the entire thing, but we can do another slice of it, and as we change the slice, we change things. You think about Einstein re-seeing what Newton had seen, right? Now, we still use Newton's mathematics for a lot of things, but we also know that there's stuff that Einstein did better. His paradigm gave us a broader problem-solving capacity. And by the way, that's why paradigms are so important, is because they are our problem-solving mechanisms. So we value them.
Yep. You also do quite a bit of work with countries, right? Singapore and...
What's interesting is it's episodic.
Okay.
So I've worked with Venezuela, I've worked with Canada, I've worked with Singapore, I've come to Malaysia 3 times.
Right.
I've worked with my own country.
What do you tell them? I mean, what advice do you give them?
Well, the range is so broad.
Okay.
But all of them wanted to know about paradigms. So we did that work. All but one was interested in vision. In fact, I had the very interesting experience of being invited to Venezuela with 5 presidential nominees in the front seat of the auditorium as I talked about vision. One of those was a guy named Hugo Chavez. When I went back and looked at it, I thought, maybe I shouldn't have gone. But yeah, so it's been an interesting interaction with countries.
Well, what's your take on Malaysia? I mean, what does Malaysia need to do next? I mean, what's next steps?
You know, I got asked that yesterday too, and I said, you know, I don't want to comment on that because I don't know Malaysia well. You're a very complex country, and I'm impressed with the complexity, and I'm also impressed with the willingness to keep trying things new. Your new thrust as we're going to be an innovation country is, you know, there are a lot of countries who wouldn't even dare do that, you know. So I admire your country, especially. In fact, I actually use you as a model when I talk about the 2020 Vision Project that you had, you know, which is still ongoing. I can't name you another country that has been so specific and so willing to kind of put it on the line. That's very courageous. Okay, so that is, as a tradition in your country, it's very powerful.
I mean, vision is another big piece that you're very passionate about, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that, and you know what individuals need to do in terms of leadership.
You know, there's an old line which is, if you don't know where you're going, anywhere is all right to be.
That's right.
And the trouble with corporations without vision and individuals without vision is that they can't measure the rightness of their actions except with one thing, which is values. Now, values are wonderful, but a person with values and no vision still can go around in a circle, right? So what I learned, again, in a lot of research, was that people and organizations with vision tend to be much more efficient in the use of their energy and their time. The second thing that's important about it is when you have a vision, you can also choose to change it. If you don't have a vision, there is no choice to change. So even if you change direction, it's part of the choice activity. And I am a really strong believer that people who live their life by choice actually have much more power than people who are saying, well, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, so I'll just wait and see. Yeah, what you do is you hand off all your power and all your capacity to the exterior, and then you better hope somebody cares about your future. And most times that isn't true. Most times, people are caring about their own future. So what I say is it's much more to your advantage to generate a vision of the future, even if it's wild and crazy, because it gives you some direction and it gives you some focus.
A couple of quick last questions. What advice would you give someone who's just starting out in their career, who's just graduated maybe?
Yeah. This is going to sound funny, but it's really important to read much more broadly than most people do. And it's because the future comes from many directions, and opportunities arise in places that you would not expect. And so one of the things I try and teach people is, in fact, I actually have a little exercise. Once every 3 months, go to the magazine store. Grab some magazines in areas that you would never think to read, and just read them and see what's going on outside your field of interest. Because you'd be surprised how often there's stuff there that actually is in your field of interest, or is interesting.
Or is a possibility used on the verge, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right.
Okay, fantastic. That's good advice. Now, final question. What advice would you give a CEO or a business leader?
The thing I'm focusing on right now is that CEOs and business leaders need to develop a very powerful discipline to understand the long-term implications of the actions they want to take before they take them. And there are devices and tools that help us do that. And as far as I'm concerned, it's going to be a huge separating skill in the 21st century. If I am a CEO and I can see the long-term implications of my actions before I start, I can in fact move through into the future with much more intelligence. If I don't have that, if I haven't taken the time to do that, then I better hope that what's over the horizon is good for me.
Joe Barker, thanks a lot. We have Joe Barker here on the Leaderonomics show.